In 1970, a United States Air Force test missile carrying two small radioactive containers went off course over the Chihuahuan Desert in northern Mexico. It did not land randomly. It landed in a precise stretch of desert so strange that Mexican government investigators who arrived to retrieve the warhead could not communicate with their base camp. Their radios were dead, their compasses were spinning, and the zone they had stumbled into had been quietly terrifying locals for generations. Nobody told you about this in school. And the reason why is stranger than the mystery itself. The place is called the Zona del Silencio, the Silent Zone. It sits in the Trino Vertex, a remote triangle of desert where the states of Chihuahua, Durango, and Sonora converge at roughly 27 degrees north latitude. It covers roughly 50 kilometers of some of the most isolated terrain on the continent. And for reasons that no physicist has fully explained to this day, it swallows radio frequencies whole. AM signals die. FM signals die. Shortwave transmissions cut out. Satellite communications behave erratically. And that compass thing is not folklore. Magnetic anomalies in the zone are measurable, documented, and deeply inconvenient for anyone who assumed they understood how Earth's magnetic field works. Now here is the first thing that should stop you cold. The 1970 missile incident was not the first time something extraordinary fell from the sky directly onto that specific patch of desert. In 1938, a meteorite landed in the same zone. Not nearby, not in the general region. In the zone itself. That meteorite, later catalogued as the Allende meteorite, turned out to be one of the most scientifically significant space rocks ever recovered on Earth. It contained pre-solar material older than our Sun. Scientists called it a gift. Nobody asked why the gift kept landing in the same 30 miles of desert. Then in 1964, another large bolide impacted the zone. 3 extraordinary space events. One specific location. Researchers at the Mexican government's Biosphere Reserve, established in the zone in 1978 following the missile incident, began documenting something else. The flora inside the zone mutated at abnormally high rates. Certain cacti grew with 4 arms instead of the standard 1 or 2. Tortoises with unusual shell geometries. Albino animals appearing with statistically improbable frequency. The scientists did not announce this loudly. The findings were published in internal reports that took years to surface. If this is already surprising you, subscribe right now. Because this channel covers the history they decided you did not need to know. We do this every week. Here is the deeper layer. The Mexican government's response to the 1970 missile incident was not simply to retrieve the warhead and leave. They built a research station. They called it Campamento Base. They stationed scientists there through the 1980s. And those scientists started noticing visitors. Not American officials. Not journalists. Locals had been reporting for decades that strangers appeared in the zone during storms. Tall figures. Speaking accented Spanish. Appearing from nowhere and disappearing the same way. A woman named Ernestina Morales, who farmed the desert edge in the 1950s, described 2 individuals who asked her for water during a storm and then walked directly into the zone and never came back out the other side. She told this story to Mexican radio journalist Gustavo del Toro in 1973. Del Toro broadcast it. It ran once. The station received a letter from federal communications authorities 3 days later. The segment was never rebroadcast. Now you might say that sounds like rumor. And you would be right to say so. But here is what is not rumor. The zone sits almost exactly on the 27th parallel north. So does the Bermuda Triangle. So does the Egyptian pyramids at Giza. So does the Tibetan city of Lhasa. So does the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur. Researchers have noted this alignment since the 1990s. The scientific establishment does not consider this meaningful. The scientific establishment also spent 40 years dismissing ball lightning as folklore before admitting it was real. What we do know with documented certainty is this. The Chihuahuan Desert inside the zone has the highest density of magnetic minerals per square kilometer of any surveyed surface terrain in North America. Those minerals are not uniformly distributed. They cluster in patterns. Those patterns correspond almost exactly to the meteorite impact sites. The impacts themselves, over geological time, may have created a mineral lattice that actively interferes with electromagnetic transmission. That is the current mainstream hypothesis. It is also the hypothesis that explains almost nothing about why the zone specifically attracts falling objects in the first place. The Mexican government officially designated the area as part of the Reserva de la Biosfera Mapimi in 1978. Access became controlled. Researchers required permits. Journalists found permits difficult to obtain. The international press largely moved on. And so a zone of genuine scientific mystery, sitting a few hundred miles south of the American border, quietly vanished from the public conversation. The legacy of the Zona del Silencio is this. It is a reminder that there are places on this earth whose physical properties we do not fully understand. And our response to that uncertainty has been, historically, to fence it off rather than explain it. The 1970 missile incident alone should have triggered a decade of open international research. Instead, it triggered a recovery operation, a quiet research station, and a disappearance from the headlines within a month. The zone is still there. The magnetic anomalies are still measurable. The cacti are still growing with extra arms. And the radio signals are still dying the moment they cross that invisible border in the desert. The question nobody is asking out loud is simple. If a missile can go off course by hundreds of miles and land precisely in the one zone on the continent that swallows radio signals, what is the probability that this was pure chance? Mathematically, it is not a comfortable number. And uncomfortable numbers are exactly why this story never made it into your textbook. If this is the kind of history you want more of, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Next week we go somewhere even stranger. And we are bringing receipts.